It all began on a stormy evening, the kind where thunder roars like an angry beast and rain lashes against the windows with unrelenting fury. I had just returned from work, my mind heavy with stress about Mary's recent cold demeanor toward me. Little did I know that the tempest outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing within the walls of our home. As fate would have it, my mother appeared at my apartment unexpectedly, her face pale, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone tightly. She didn't say a word but pressed play on a video she'd recorded earlier that day. My heart sank as I watched myself in the frame, caught red-handed in an intimate embrace with someone who wasn't my wife. The footage was damning, every stolen kiss, every lingering touch played out in excruciating detail. But what made it worse was the look of betrayal etched across my mother's face. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of disappointment. Before I could even attempt to explain, she thrust another device into my hand, a series of text messages exchanged between me and her. Each message was a dagger piercing through the fragile illusion of trust I had built around my marriage. There were admissions of guilt, promises of secrecy, and plans for future rendezvous all laid bare for scrutiny. The room seemed to shrink around me, suffocating me with shame and panic. "You've disgraced this family," my mother hissed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Do you realize what this means? Do you understand how much pain you're causing, not just to Mary, but to everyone who loves you?" Her words hit me like a freight train, yet they barely scratched the surface of the chaos that would soon unfold. What started as a clandestine affair had spiraled into something far more sinister, something that threatened to destroy everything I held dear. And as if sensing the gravity of the moment, the lights flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows across the room. It felt as though the universe itself was mocking me, reminding me of the consequences of my actions. The storm of betrayal didn't stop at stolen kisses and deceitful messages. It spiraled into something far more sinister, a meticulously crafted plan to dismantle the very foundation of our family. As I sat in my dimly lit office late one night, my phone buzzed incessantly with updates from her. We had been planning this for months, orchestrating every detail with cold precision. The centerpiece of our scheme was the family account, a staggering multi-million-dollar fortune that was meant to secure our son's future. But instead of funding his education, we intended to use it as our escape fund. Every transaction, every withdrawal, was calculated down to the last penny. Fake passports? Check. New identities? Double check. Plane tickets to a country without extradition laws? Already booked. Nothing would be left to chance. What made this betrayal even more grotesque was the timing. Our departure was set for the day of my son's birthday, the ultimate irony. While everyone else would be singing "Happy Birthday" and cutting cake, we would be boarding a private jet to freedom. She had laughed when I suggested the date, calling it poetic justice. "Let them remember this day as the beginning of their ruin," she'd said, her voice dripping with venom. And yet, beneath her words lay an unsettling truth. Neither of us cared about the devastation we were leaving behind. To us, the boy was just collateral damage, a reminder of the life we were desperate to leave behind. But perfection is fragile, and cracks began to show almost immediately. One evening, while finalizing the logistics over coffee, I noticed something odd. My brother, of all people, had started acting strangely around me. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia, but then came the subtle jabs during dinner conversations. "You're awfully busy these days," he remarked casually, though his eyes bore into mine like daggers. It wasn't until later that night, when I overheard him arguing with Mary on the phone, that I realized the gravity of the situation. Somehow he knew, or at least suspected, what we were up to. He accused her of being complicit in draining the family funds, his tone laced with fury. Her denial was swift, almost too rehearsed, which only fueled my anxiety further. Then there was my mother, whose presence loomed larger than ever. She hadn't confronted me again since the elevator incident, but her silence was deafening. Every glance she gave felt like a verdict waiting to be delivered. I caught her once staring at the stack of documents. I'd carelessly left on the dining table documents detailing our elaborate getaway. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Instead, she turned away, muttering under her breath about karma and divine retribution. For a fleeting moment, guilt gnawed at me, but I quickly shoved it aside. This was survival, after all, or so I told myself. As the days ticked closer to the fateful birthday, tension mounted exponentially. I found myself waking up in cold sweats, plagued by nightmares where faceless figures chased me through endless corridors. Each dream ended the same way, with me standing alone, clutching an empty briefcase, while shadowy hands reached out to drag me into darkness. These visions weren't random, they mirrored the growing unease within me. Was I making the right choice? Could I really abandon everything and everyone for a fleeting promise of happiness? As if the web of deceit wasn't tangled enough, fate decided to twist the knife further by revealing yet another layer of betrayal, one that would shatter whatever fragile remnants of trust still lingered in our crumbling family. Mary, my wife, the woman I had vowed to love and protect, was not the innocent victim I had imagined her to be. Unbeknownst to me, she had been orchestrating her own secret affair with a wealthy businessman named Ryan. The irony was suffocating. While I plotted my escape with her, Mary was building a new life with someone else entirely. And then came the bombshell. She was pregnant. But here's the cruel part, she didn't even know whose child it was. Mine? Or Ryan's? The uncertainty hung over us like a storm cloud, dark and oppressive, threatening to unleash chaos at any moment. The revelation hit me like a freight train when I accidentally stumbled upon a series of text messages between Mary and Ryan during one of my rare visits home. Their exchanges were laced with affection, promises of a future together, and plans for their unborn child. "I can't wait to start our new life," Ryan wrote, followed by emojis of hearts and kisses. My stomach churned as I scrolled through message after message, each one more damning than the last. It became clear that Mary had no intention of staying in this marriage either. She was preparing to file for divorce just as I was planning to leave her for another woman. The symmetry of our betrayals was almost poetic, if not utterly devastating. What made this situation even more grotesque was the timing. All three of us, Mary, Ryan, and myself, were on the verge of ending our respective relationships simultaneously. We were like dominoes lined up perfectly, ready to collapse into ruin. Mary had already hired a lawyer, unbeknownst to me, and Ryan had secured them a luxurious penthouse apartment downtown where they planned to raise their ambiguous child. Meanwhile, my mistress and I were finalizing our escape plan, oblivious to the fact that we were walking straight into another trap set by karma itself. None of us realized how intertwined our lives had become, a toxic tapestry woven from lies, greed, and selfish desires. One evening, while packing my belongings in preparation for the big departure, I overheard a heated argument between Mary and Ryan over the phone. Her voice trembled with frustration as she demanded answers about his commitment to their unborn child. "Do you even care about this baby?" she snapped, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. His response was equally venomous. "How do I know it's even mine?" "You've been playing both sides, haven't you?" The accusation reverberated through the room, leaving behind a deafening silence. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of vindictive satisfaction, knowing that Mary wasn't the saint she pretended to be. But that feeling quickly dissolved into a nauseating realization. None of us were innocent. We were all guilty of perpetuating this cycle of betrayal, each of us clinging desperately to our own selfish agendas. Then there was the matter of the pregnancy itself, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Every prenatal appointment, every ultrasound felt like a countdown to disaster. Who would claim responsibility for the child once the truth came out? Would Ryan step up and demand paternity tests, or would he abandon Mary altogether? And what about me? Could I live with the possibility of raising a child who might not share my bloodline? These questions haunted me day and night, gnawing at my sanity until I could barely think straight. But perhaps the most gut-wrenching aspect of this entire ordeal was the inevitability of it all. No matter which path we chose, destruction awaited us at every turn. Divorce papers would soon flood our mailboxes, tearing apart the illusion of normalcy we had clung to for so long. Our son, the only truly innocent party in this mess, would bear the brunt of our failures, growing up in a fractured household devoid of love and stability. And as much as I wanted to blame Mary or Ryan or anyone else for the mess we were in, deep down I knew the fault lay squarely with all of us. Just when it seemed like the storm of betrayal couldn't get any darker, a new force entered our lives, a presence so enigmatic and terrifying that it made all previous betrayals feel trivial in comparison. It came to me on an ordinary afternoon, cloaked in shadows, introducing itself as a guardian angel. At first, I thought it was some elaborate prank orchestrated by my brother or Mary to torment me further. But as the figure stepped into the light, its features blurred and distorted, shifting unnaturally with every blink. Its voice resonated like thunder, deep and hollow, sending chills down my spine. "I am here to grant you 3 wishes," it said, its lips curling into a sinister smile. "But beware, each wish comes at a price." The rules were simple yet chilling. Whatever I wished for, someone better than me would receive twice as much. The implications set my mind reeling. Could I risk asking for wealth if Ryan might become even richer? Could I dare wish for happiness knowing Mary's life could be doubled in joy while mine remained tainted? Still, desperation drove me forward. My family account had been drained. My mistress betrayed me. My wife despised me. What did I have left to lose? "I want $100 million in cash," I blurted out, half expecting the creature to laugh at my audacity. Instead, it nodded solemnly, its eyes glowing faintly red. Within moments, stacks of money appeared before me, but not without consequence. Ryan called later that evening, his tone dripping with arrogance. He boasted about winning $200 million in the lottery, mocking my paltry sum. "Looks like luck favors the truly deserving," he sneered. Each word felt like salt rubbed into an open wound. My second wish was born out of spite. I want him to go blind. Again, the entity obliged, but twisted my requests beyond recognition. When I confronted Ryan, expecting to find him helpless and broken, he stared back at me with 2 perfectly functioning eyes. "What's wrong?" he taunted, grinning wickedly. "Afraid of losing?" Then came the realization. The curse hadn't fallen on him, it had landed squarely on me. One of my eyes clouded over instantly, rendering me partially blind. Meanwhile, chaos erupted around us. Mary discovered my second wish through cryptic messages left behind by the entity. She accused me of trying to sabotage her newfound relationship with Ryan, screaming accusations laced with venom. "You're insane," she shrieked, throwing objects across the room. The strain fractured what little remained of our sanity. Meanwhile, my brother began acting strangely, often muttering under his breath about fairness and karma. His behavior grew increasingly erratic, culminating in one fateful night when he cornered me in the living room. "Why do you think you deserve anything?" he spat, his face contorted with rage. Before I could respond, he lunged at me, knocking over furniture and shattering glass. Each wish brought unforeseen disasters, compounding the already suffocating web of betrayal. The once familiar walls of my home now felt like a prison haunted by unseen forces. Every shadow seemed alive, whispering cruel truths about my failures as a husband, father, and son. Sleep became impossible, replaced by vivid nightmares where the entity loomed over me, laughing maniacally. In one particularly harrowing dream, it revealed the true extent of its power. Your greed has only widened the chasm between you and those you claim to love, it hissed, and there is no escape. As tensions reached their breaking point, alliances shifted unpredictably. Mary, desperate to protect her unborn child, struck a secret deal with the entity herself. Her wish? To ensure Ryan stayed loyal forever. Yet, within hours, cracks began forming in their fragile bond. Ryan accused her of manipulating him, claiming he felt trapped in a gilded cage. Their arguments escalated into physical altercations, leaving both emotionally scarred. Meanwhile, my mistress resurfaced, demanding compensation for her role in exposing my secrets. "You owe me everything," she snarled, clutching a knife menacingly. Panic surged through me as I realized how far she and everyone else would go to exact revenge. With one final wish remaining, I faced an impossible choice. Should I use it to undo the damage, risking even greater catastrophe? Or should I embrace vengeance, damning myself and others to eternal suffering? As I weighed these options, the entity leaned closer, its breath cold against my skin. "Choose wisely," it whispered, its voice echoing ominously. Whatever decision I made, one thing was certain: this nightmare was far from over. The unraveling of our lives reached its crescendo in a series of catastrophic events that left none of us unscathed. It began with the entity's twisted fulfillment of my third wish, or rather, my curse. I had demanded that Ryan lose his sight, hoping to punish him for his arrogance and greed. But as always, the entity turned my malice against me. When I confronted Ryan later that evening, expecting to find him helpless and broken, he stared back at me with piercing clarity. "What's wrong?" he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. "Afraid of losing?" The truth hit me like a freight train. The blindness I wished upon him had been inflicted on myself instead. One eye clouded over instantly, rendering me partially blind, while Ryan remained untouched, untouchable. But the nightmare didn't stop there. As if punishing me further, the 100 million Ignatia fascistas. My wallet, unspoken with cash, now contained in Feffing Bankske Baragomasa. Panic surged refreshin, every transaction online to discover Leo Clay. No tabna tracer. Meanwhile, Ryan lo to brow falshness, claiming Dwan 200 million in the lottery, a cruel reminder of how each of my wishes had backfired spectacularly. And then came the final blow. Evidence of crimes long buried resurfaced with devastating precision. My brother, who had always prided himself on being the moral compass of the family, was exposed as an accomplice in a decade-old embezzlement scheme. Documents detailing his involvement mysteriously appeared on our dining table one morning, signed and dated with damning accuracy. Mary, too, wasn't spared. Photos emerged showing her meeting with dangerous figures tied to organized crime, evidence suggesting she had used her affair with Ryan, not just for personal gain, but also to launder money. Even my mistress revealed her own dark secret. She had orchestrated the theft of critical documents from my office, selling them to competitors for a hefty sum. Each revelation tore deeper into the fragile fabric of our already fractured relationships. Trust evaporated completely, replaced by paranoia and blame. We accused one another relentlessly, voices rising to deafening levels as tempers flared. "You ruined everything," Mary screamed at me, her face contorted with rage. "This is your fault," Ryan chimed in, pointing an accusatory finger. "If it weren't for your greed, none of this would have happened." Their words echoed in the chaos, each syllable cutting like a knife. Blindness, both literal and metaphorical, consumed me. With one eye gone and the other struggling to focus, I stumbled through the wreckage of my life, grappling with guilt and despair. Every shadow seemed alive, whispering cruel truths about my failures. Sleep became impossible. Nightmares haunted me nightly, where the entity loomed larger than ever, laughing maniacally as it revealed the full extent of its power. "Your sins have caught up with you," it hissed, its voice reverberating through the darkness. "There's no redemption." The final act of this tragic saga unfolded with a crescendo of despair, leaving none of us untouched by ruin. What little remained of our wealth evaporated overnight. My $100 million dwindled to nothing more than shredded paper in my wallet. Ryan's lottery winnings? A mirage that vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving him bankrupt and humiliated. Mary, once poised to live a life of luxury with her newfound lover, found herself embroiled in legal battles after evidence surfaced linking her to money laundering schemes. Her reputation crumbled under the weight of scandal, and she was arrested on charges of fraud, her face plastered across headlines like a cautionary tale. As for me, blindness consumed not just my vision, but also my spirit. The partial loss of sight served as a cruel metaphor for how far I had fallen, unable to see the truth, unwilling to confront the consequences of my actions. My family home, once a symbol of stability, became a battleground of recriminations. Trust, honor, and love all gone, replaced by bitterness and regret. Even my son, the innocent bystander in this mess, turned his back on me. "You're no father," he spat during one of our final encounters, tears streaming down his face. "I hate you." Those words cut deeper than any blade, severing whatever tenuous bond we still shared. My brother fared no better. Exposed as an accomplice in embezzlement, he too faced imprisonment, his moral pretenses shattered beyond repair. "We were supposed to be a family," he muttered bitterly during his trial, though his voice carried no conviction. By then, the concept of family felt alien, a relic of a past we could never reclaim. Our mother, who had tried so desperately to hold us together, withdrew into silence, her faith in humanity irreparably broken. She refused to speak to any of us, retreating into solitude as if trying to erase the pain of witnessing such devastation. And yet, even amidst the wreckage, there was no redemption. The entity returned one last time, its presence colder and more menacing than ever. "Your greed has destroyed everything," it hissed, its voice echoing through the emptiness of my ruined life. "But don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to reflect." With those parting words, it vanished, leaving behind only the suffocating silence of despair. In the end, we were all prisoners of our own making. Ryan wandered aimlessly, his arrogance stripped away, reduced to scavenging for scraps. Mary languished behind bars, her dreams of a perfect life obliterated. And I sat alone in darkness, clutching the remnants of my shattered existence, unable to escape the torment of what I had wrought. The house that once echoed with laughter now stood hollow, a monument to betrayal and greed. Nothing remained, not dignity, not hope, not even the faintest glimmer of forgiveness.